Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tera Vanasari Yamuna Tera Vanasari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tera Vanasari Yamuna Tera Vanasari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Swayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakachaja Stotra Satta Sri Simar His Divine Grace Siraboy Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskcon BBT Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sigaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gradhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vindiki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Sri Dwarka Dham Ki Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Sri Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Sri Mayapur Chandra Mandir Ki Gangamai Jumanamai Ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Samavata Bhakta Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Shri Shri Gauritai Ki Jai Shri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurandiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Maropistam Stapitam Jena Bhuktale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Gita Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Nishakantitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord who is praised with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swaschayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantharaj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation.
ಕನ್ನಡ ಅನುವಾದ FM 93 ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಇದ್ದರೆ FM 93 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡ ಅನುವಾದ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು.
What was that?
FM frequency.
Translation in Kannada.
Translation in Kannada.
Local language.
Okay. You will be translating.
What is translating?
He's sitting there and translating.
Okay. This is simultaneous translation. Okay. I just have to speak. I request everyone to kindly fold your hands and repeat the following two mantras after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sri Surabhyay Namaha. Om Sri Surabhyay Namaha. Om Sri Surabhyay Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pangum langayate girim yatkripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam. Yatkripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinatharanam. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Is that another hall in the back? So, Hare Krishna, welcome to everyone. I think there was a little change in your schedule today. Evening, normally you have Sunday feast earlier. Morning, okay, yeah. So, I'm very happy to get this opportunity to visit your temple. It's been quite some time. Actually, I don't come to Bangalore so often, so today It was a little bit of a marathon. We left at 7:30 in the morning from I forget the area we came from, but we started by visiting our three main temples here in Bangalore. I have a particular theme that I would like to share with you. You know, our Iskcon society, by the mercy of our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, has given all of us innumerable opportunities, unlimited opportunities actually, to engage in different ways in devotional service and to engage in helping our previous acharyas, and in particular in helping Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduce and spread this most important mission of the Sankirtan movement. India, in many ways, since time immemorial, has been the land of Dharma. And so many people over the centuries from different countries actually would travel. In those days, without the facilities that we have now for traveling. So at great cost and labor and time consuming also, would travel to India actually to receive this knowledge, this treasure house of knowledge, Vedic knowledge actually, which we are finding out more and more. Sanskrit, for example, being the mother language of all the other languages. India has, over the centuries, amazingly enough, although within this period of Kali Yuga, having been conquered by so many foreign agencies or elements over the centuries, still India remains today a great source of knowledge and inspiration. We see now, for example, and of course to a large extent, this is very much to the credit of our founder Acharya. Interest in yoga, interest in kirtan, interest in vegetarianism, etc., is very much increasing all over the world. And of course, Srila Prabhupada's desire and the desire of our previous acharyas is to actually give to the world something that the world has lost since many centuries. And we know, of course, from our Shastra that although this is Kali Yuga, it's a special Kali Yuga. I'll just relate a short story I heard recently, which I was mentioning just a few days ago. 5,000 years ago, those who were especially living in the Himalayas, the sadhus, because historically, as you all know, that's sadhus, they just want to especially concentrate on spiritual development, emancipation. And we know that many sadhus, they only come down from the Himalayas when there is a Kumbh Mela. Otherwise, they stay up there. So 5,000 years ago, because sadhus are totally absorbed always in meditating and studying also the Shastra, they could understand that actually Kali Yuga is about to begin. And of course, the greatest of all sadhus at that time, Srila Vyasadeva, who's still actually in the Himalayas, living there, he was also understanding that very soon Kali Yuga will begin. So some sadhus actually were very concerned because Kali Yuga means a lot of problems and difficulties and suffering for the people of this age. So they decided to go to the ashram of Srila Vyasadeva to consult with him what to do in preparation of this Kali Yuga. As they were approaching the ashram of Srila Vyasadeva with their concern, as they approached, they could hear him chanting mantras, which sadhus do all the time. But as they approached, one of the mantras he was chanting was, "All glories to Kali Yuga, all glories to Kali Yuga, all glories to Kali Yuga." And they were very puzzled. Here they were coming with their concern, and Srila Vyasadeva was glorifying Kali Yuga. So anyways, they approached him very humbly and they requested him, why you're glorifying Kali Yuga. Then he went on to explain that actually, generally, Kali Yuga is a very difficult, the most difficult of periods, and therefore people suffer tremendously as well. But this Kali Yuga, which is about to begin, is a very unique and special Kali Yuga, because in this Kali Yuga, a very great personality will appear to introduce the remedy that will neutralize the effect of Kali Yuga. And then of course, that is inserted in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, very well known verse by most devotees, Kaliyar Doshalide Rajan Asti Eka Mahanguna Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Brajat. That although the stage of Kali is a most difficult period, it is like an ocean of miseries and problems and faults. I think we can all attest to that every single day, so many challenges and problems. But in this age of Kali, there is this Mahaguna, great quality, great opportunity. Kirtana deva Krishnasya, Krishna Kirtan, Hari Kirtan, simply by taking shelter of the holy name. We cannot fathom our great fortune to have taken birth in this particular historical period, just at the beginning of this 10,000 years, which began actually with the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, of course, some people say, well, you know, where is the golden age? It's predicted that the golden age will begin with the advent of Lord Chaitanya, but where's the golden age? The golden age actually has begun. It began with the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, soon after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, for reasons that are not so easy to understand, the whole mission of Lord Chaitanya kind of like disappeared, or at least became misdirected, interrupted, and for about 200-300 years actually, until the advent of a great personality by the name of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Only by his presence and contribution was this mission of the Lord again revived, isn't it? So then after some period of time, of course, it has continued through his sons, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and more recently has taken on this very much greater dimension in terms of introducing this knowledge, introducing this culture, Vedic culture, outside of India, something that was very much desired and meditated upon by the previous acharyas, but no one could understand how this would be done. And of course, great prediction is there. More Senapati Bhakta, my great general, commander general, will soon appear. This is there in the Shastra. And of course, that great commander is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So at different times, there are deviations, or there are, society becomes misdirected. This evening, I just want to focus on an area which we often don't think about, or at least we don't think about sufficiently. And it is connected with a major deviation that has taken place in general society, which is actually the cause in many ways for the kind of very severe degradation that we see all over the world, and that has increased especially in the last century. And this is connected, Srila Prabhupada speaks about this on a number of occasions, this is connected with the era of industrialization, or the Industrial Revolution. We forget actually, when we look at our recent history, especially here in India, we point the finger to the British. These guys, they're the cause of so many. And of course, historically, there is truth. But actually we should keep in mind that the British, it was around that time that it was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And of course, a whole Western influence and mentality was very much introduced here in India. And we find ourselves, not only here in India, but actually all over the world, in a situation where our basic traditional values, our basic traditional lifestyle, our basic traditional occupation has changed tremendously and is threatening, especially here in India, but not only in India. We have here in India a ministry that is trying to address this particular area, which is not easy actually to address, because it's complicated. I'm talking about a major deviation that is ongoing today, which we may be less aware of. A major deviation in terms of the trend towards increased urbanization. And of course, the trend towards increased materialistic way of life. Vedic culture, we should try to understand from the more recent history, let's say going back to 5,000 years, when the Lord descended on this planet and manifested His pastimes in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada explains that actually the primary reason for the Lord's descent in Vrindavan was to show us that this village life in Vrindavan, as lived by Krishna and Balaram and the residents of Vrindavan, is meant to be the model and the standard, not only for people at that time, but actually is meant to be the standard and the model for people all the time. Sanatana Dharma is based on eternal scientific concepts and principles. Eternal means it should not change. When we change anything in connection with dharma, and dharma, of course, something that Prabhupada spoke about, that is there in Shastra. Again, something we do not sufficiently understand, dharma is not only in terms of our spiritual activities. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The Lord Himself creates dharma. And dharma needs to be understood, and when it is properly understood, needs to be practiced and demonstrated on two levels. There is what is called spiritual swadharma. Spiritual swadharma has to do with the nature, identity, and activities of the spirit soul. And that is nicely summarized, of course, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are the eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. And our position, our constitutional position, Krishna Bhakti Nitya Siddha. Krishna Bhakti Nitya Siddha. Our eternal quality or nature is Krishna Bhakti. So this is on the level of spiritual swadharma, which of course unfortunately is, practically speaking, unknown in modern day society, and that's one of the major dimensions or aspects that we as a society are endeavoring to introduce. That is what all of our previous acharyas have been preaching. The other dimension, which is also extremely important because it also constitutes a science in itself, and that is called material swadharma. Material swadharma has to do with how we relate and interact with the material nature. Material swadharma has to do with our ability to understand how we should live collectively, or how society should be organized. And of course, in as much as spiritual sadharma is a science, the science of bhakti, the science of atmagyan or atma tattva, material swadharma is also a science. And that science actually is called varnashrama dharma. And in as much as Krishna Bhakti or spiritual swadharma is an eternal science, varnashrama dharma is also an eternal science. I'll share with you a few things which will demonstrate that when leaders in society, and there are different kinds of leaders, three major divisions of leadership within society, but when any of these levels of leadership are not properly executing their duties and responsibilities, then naturally both the spiritual dimension of dharma as well as the material dimension of dharma becomes misdirected or misused, and all kinds of irregularities. This is what we have actually in modern day society. This ministry I was mentioning possibly a little earlier, we have a ministry in India that was established 10 years ago called the Iskcon Daiva Varnashram Ministry. The primary goal and purpose of this ministry is actually promote what we call rural development. Go to the villages, understand how essential are our villages. Our villages here in India at present are under tremendous pressure. They're being threatened of their very existence, actually. Because villages, traditionally, especially if we go back 5,000 years ago, but we don't have to go back that far, even a few hundred years ago. What is a special feature in villages? Two main activities, actually. Krishi and Goraksha, isn't it? So if we understand that actually general society is meant, or Vedic society. General society means actually it should be based on the Vedic principles, Vedic culture, because that's an eternal culture which addresses both the spiritual as well as the material dimension of life. So Varnashrama culture or Vedic culture, Prabhupada would equate them sometimes, is based on this science of Krishi Guraksha. Krishi Gurakshavanijam Vaisha Karma Swabhavajam. This is the perfect definition and the perfect formula for a sustainable economy. In the Vedic literatures, we find 4 basic sciences described. I'm just referring to the 4th one, science of economics. How many grihasthas are here? Householders? So you should all be interested in economics, no? By nature. But most of us, and definitely, practically speaking, all the leaders of different countries around the world, they don't know this formula. They don't know this science, because actually it is a science. Everything about Krishna consciousness, both on the spiritual level as well as the material level, is a science. Let me try and give you a few examples. Actually, in our Iskcon society, we especially concentrate on the spiritual dimension. Bhagavat Dharma, which is the most important, but we tend to actually minimize or even neglect, or generally are much less aware of the other dimension, which is actually not good because it creates an imbalance. It's just like, our body is material and we're sitting here because there's a soul in the body. If the soul would not be there, we could not be sitting here because the body would be dead. So we take care of this body, isn't it? So in other words, dharma means to find and create and maintain this kind of balance between matter and spirit, between the material body and the spiritual body, the spiritual self. And that is what our Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us, for example. This very well-known verse, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Jato Bhakti Radho Sati Ahaitukya Pratihata Yagatma Suprasidati. Atma, as Prabhupada explains, is not only the soul. Atma means either the body, the mind, or the soul. So I was mentioning about this major deviation, actually major deviation on 3 fronts has taken place in the last 300 years especially. Before that, Kali Yuga was of course active, but it took on a more severe kind of position with the neglect of 3 areas which are actually very essential for society to function properly. This is also connected with something that happened as well in Europe, in France. The Industrial Revolution was started in England. Before that, or around the same time, what we call the French Revolution. The French and the English. The French Revolution also actually was the beginning point of rejection of religion, because the French Revolution was based on rejecting the spiritual authorities of the time, who were actually not properly representing religion, and also a rejection of the monarchs or the kings at that time, anyone who studied a little bit of history. So when we reject religion, basically what we do is we minimize or reject the Brahminical culture, isn't it? Because Brahmanas primarily are meant to uphold. They learn, they study, and they teach dharma. And they live accordingly as well. So, the second thing, rejection of leadership, rejection of authority, because authority was, kings, leaders were misusing their positions of authority. Of course, that's ongoing today as well. So, first the Brahmanas, then the Kshatriyas, and then with this industrial revolution, the Vaishyas. Primary activity of Vaishyas, as we know, of course, is agriculture, production of food. And now we have around the world a tremendous crisis. Actually, not only one crisis. We are faced with many crises at the same time. And these crises are actually threatening all of us on different levels. And why is it that we as devotees should be aware of this and concerned about this? It's because, for example, in terms of material nature, if we look in the sector of agriculture, because of mechanization and industrialization, we have introduced, as we all know, what we call modern agriculture, using tractors. And then we've introduced, of course, calling it the Green Revolution, all kinds of chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides. And now after 75 years or so, there are findings that have been coming out more and more, which is now making it obvious that in over 80 countries around the world, the land in 80 countries around the world is unable to produce the quality food needed as well as the quantity needed for an increased population. The topsoil here in India, this is, you can research it or Google it, as they say. The topsoil in India in the last 100 years has lost practically 95% of its natural nutrients. We have a global problem which is called desertification. More and more land is becoming desert-like, means unable to produce food. And the kind of food we are producing, we are growing, is actually contaminated by all of the unnatural elements that we're putting. And also by this unnatural method of doing agriculture. I'm just taking this one particular example because it's close to our ministry, since we are going in the villages and we are talking with leaders in the villages, and we are getting, we could say, first-hand information and observation as well. You know, in many of our villages in India, practically there are no cows left. In some villages, they have like 300 tractors. In some villages, there are no young people to take up actually farming. In many of our villages here in India, there's a severe water problem. Even bore wells cannot go after 1,000 feet, can't get water. So the material energy, and this actually, I should mention this point because this is directly connected with our Shastra. In the Mahabharata, we know that one of our great authorities, We're fortunate to have, these Mahajans. We have 14 authorities. One of them is Bhishmadev, grandfather Bhishmadev. And he explains actually in his giving instruction to Yudhishthira Maharaj when grandfather Bhishmadev is on his bed of arrows, waiting for that opportune time to leave his body. He explains how the Lord has given to humanity 3 natural gifts. By properly utilizing these 3 natural gifts, society will prosper. People will be happy, they will be healthy, they will live for many years, and they will be prosperous. But if any of these are neglected, or obstructed, or abused, or exploited, then this will begin the downfall of society and will actually bring in its destruction. And it's very important for all of us because these 3 gifts of nature are directly connected with what I just mentioned a few minutes ago in terms of what the French Revolution and Industrial Revolution has done. It has gone, we could say in many ways, against or triggered a scenario whereby these 3 gifts of nature are practically speaking destroyed today. The first gift of nature, and you'll understand immediately, the first gift of nature that grandfather Bhishmadev speaks about is the gift of Mother Cow. Because Mother Cow, by nature, is meant to sustain the entire universe, to sustain not only human beings, but actually all other forms of life. Actually, without cows, there cannot be proper agriculture. Without cows, actually, there cannot be proper anything. Actually, when we stop and analyze. But I'll connect the second gift of nature and you'll immediately understand. Grandfather Bhishmadev explains the second gift of nature is land. Mother Bhumi, Mother Nature. And there is a natural symbiosis between cows and the lamb. They are meant to mutually help one another. The lamb naturally nourishes the cows by the grass. And the cows and the bulls, by their walking, by their grazing on the land, which they are meant to do actually pretty well all day. They should not be tied up in a goshala. It's a wrong conception, a misconception in terms of cow protection. Real cow protection is having the cows out and having their calves with them also, 12 hours a day. This whole science, of course, in itself. So cows are the most important element or living entity to actually help the soil become and maintain its fertility. Because by their hooves, by walking on the land, they actually massage Mother Bhumi. And they break up the topsoil. And by their natural, falling of dung and urine, all kinds of living entities in the soil, they come up. In order to come up, they have to make little holes, isn't it? So they make hundreds and thousands, if not billions of holes to get this cow dung, and they bring it down. And this nourishes the soil. And by making these little tunnels, when it rains, the rain goes into the tunnels and further nourishes the soil. This is Krishna's magic. This is Krishna's science of how the soil is meant to be. We read descriptions in Vrindavan, how the cows were so happy and so healthy and so fatty. The milk bath, the milk was just dripping. You didn't have to milk the cows. The milk was automatically coming. So this is how Krishna's nature is such that Krishna has arranged that. There are many reasons actually. Krishna has arranged that every single individual, every single family should be maintaining cows. That's how it was, just recently. Many of you who are a little elderly or who have a grandmother and grandfather, they'll tell you, in our village, everyone had not only one cow, but many cows. And our village had thousands of cows, isn't it? Our Vedic culture, as we know, is primarily, the whole network in terms of social organization and how we live and how we work is meant to gradually bring all of us at least to the mode of goodness. And because cows are already in the mode of goodness, just see Krishna's wonderful arrangement. We are meant to live with cows. We are meant to serve cows. We're meant to utilize their cow dung as we were doing just a few years back by smearing our floor and outside building, etc. Simply by associating with cows, even without any extra endeavor on our part, we develop gradually the mode of goodness. This is Krishna's plan, wonderful plan, isn't it? So traditionally, even now in many villages, in front of the house, there's a tulsi plant. And there are cows. So I'm just saying that actually there has been a plan by personalities who are, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, basically there's two kinds of people in the world, the divine and the demoniac, isn't it? Krishna describes the Sura and the Deva, the Asura rather. So when one is devoid of knowledge, of transcendental knowledge, when one doesn't know about Bhagavad Gita or spirituality, which is the case for the vast majority of our leaders today, therefore they enact all kinds of policies which actually are going against the established order. So when we go against the laws of the government, then we become criminal and we become arrested and we are punished. So the very same thing is happening now actually. We are going in a very major way against the established law of nature. And therefore, we are on the verge, actually, it is so critical now, we are on the verge of destroying the very planet in which we are living. Many of us, I only found out about some of these things recently because in this outreach program that we have in our ministry of going out in the villages, understanding about how the soil has been misused and how the whole food production is also becoming imbalanced, etc. We come in contact with nature. We start thinking a bit more about its importance. We start understanding how when we abuse things that are close to Krishna or living entities close to Krishna, dear to Krishna, Krishna is not happy. The cows are extremely dear to the Lord. It is Krishna's nature as well. We have a moral, if not also a spiritual duty and responsibility to care for Mother Nature and to be concerned when she is abused and neglected and exploited, as she is today. That is one of many reasons why our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, warned us about the dangers of urbanization. There has been for the last 30 years a very systematic plan actually to move more and more people out of villages in the urban sector. And the prediction is that within a few years, 50% of the population in the world will be living in cities. And will not be having proper food to eat, will not be having proper air to breathe. And this will be affecting not only our body, our health, our mind, but also our ability even to chant Hare Krishna, our ability to practice spirituality. So therefore Prabhupada wanted that we establish self-sufficient communities. Villages are self-sufficient communities. So this is very important to understand. Prabhupada spoke about, actually before leaving, that actually 50% of my mission is yet to be established. 50%, if you're a businessman, you'll understand that that's quite a bit. 50% of anything is quite substantial. So all of us actually are duty bound. It's right there in practically every other page of the Bhagavatam. What is meant to be the practical application of dharma. Dharma, again, is not simply chanting the holy name. Of course, the basis of dharma is the chanting of the holy name in this Kali Yuga. But if we properly, nicely chant the holy name, we will be able to understand more clearly and more deeply what is the mission of our acharyas, what are the instructions given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Around the world, we have actually allowed for so many malpractices to take place. Both, again, on the spiritual level as well as the spiritual level. Is that the clock? Okay. Clocks always tick away. They don't stop. Actually, it's a very big topic, and it's not an easy topic also initially to understand. And especially when we think, well, what do all these things have to do with us as devotees? We're preachers. We want to spread the holy name. We want to establish temples. Just a few small things I want to share because I don't want to prolong this too long. Before Srila Prabhupada went to America, we know that he was already, from 1944, he started writing his Back to Godhead magazine. And even before that, Prabhupada from birth. One time a reporter asked Prabhupada, because, we always ask somebody, when did you become Krishna conscious? A reporter asked Prabhupada, when did you become Krishna conscious? So Prabhupada, of course, had always the right answer for any kind of question. So Prabhupada rightly replied, I do not remember a time when I ever forgot Krishna. I think the reporter did not ask any more questions. So, Srila Prabhupada was born in the Vaishnava family. He mentions in some purports, I had the great fortune of being born in a Vaishnava family. So even before going to America, Srila Prabhupada, of course, especially after meeting his Guru Maharaj when he was a young man, who gave him that order to preach Krishna consciousness. Naturally, after receiving this order, Prabhupada started contemplating more, and even as a grihastha started associating with members of the Gaudiya Math, etc., and became initiated, as we all know. But there's a very important article written in the Back to Godhead magazine of 1956 called Essay on Gita Nagari. How many of you here have heard of the essay Gita Nagari. I can count on one hand, maybe two maximum. Yeah, not so many. This essay on Gita Nagari, I would say, essence of the essay on Gita Nagari, we can find in a letter written by Srila Prabhupada to one Dr. Patel in 1949. We're going back, 1949. Prabhupada in 1949, the same thing he repeated in this article in 1956, speaks about four movements. Four movements. Before establishing the Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada had in mind four movements. And I just very briefly want to share with you because to me when I came in contact with this, which was, I don't know, some 20 years ago, to me it was a revelation. Because it's not immediately obvious. So in that essay on Gita Nagari, Prabhupada, and I'll use the exact same words that Prabhupada uses. The first movement he calls the Sankirtan movement, referring to the holy name and an extension of the holy name that he calls the Brihat Mridanga, transcendental literatures, right? So the holy name in books is what Prabhupada means in that context, Sankirtan movement. Second movement, Prabhupada calls it the deity worship movement. Deity worship movement means establishing temples, as we have here and in so many places around the world by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, where there are installed deities, where people who have received the holy name can come to some place and know more. Isn't it? The third movement, Prabhupada calls it spiritual initiation movement. So when people receive the holy name or receive a book, come to know a little bit, they come to a temple, to Sunday feast, then they start associating with devotees. Spiritual initiation means what we have today in our Iskcon society, congregational preaching. We cultivate people. We explain to them that actually the human form of life is very rare, very special, and you should take it seriously and you should become qualified to become an official member of Krishna's family by taking initiation. Isn't it? That's the third movement. The fourth movement, the name that Prabhupada gave it, might confuse one initially. Prabhupada calls the fourth movement classless society movement. Classless society. And then, many people say, wonderful, we don't need any classes. So Prabhupada, when he explains classless society means 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, where each member of each varna and each member of each ashrama is simply fixed on the same activity of serving Krishna. That's classless society. And therefore, it means, that's why our acharyas began calling varnashrama as Daiva Varnashrama. Daiva Varnashrama is that social system, that very scientific, God-created, Krishna-created social system. That eternal system is right there in the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Krishna says, I created this system. And it's an eternal system where everyone is understanding that, okay, Prabhupada actually used to use this example. We should look at or see Varnashram as like a drama. Any one of you who has acted in some drama, you had a particular role to play. But even when you're on the stage, you're just playing that role. You're not really the king or whatever. You're just playing the role for the few minutes that you're on the stage. So in a similar way, we are simply playing the role of a Brahmana, of a Kshatriya, of a Vaishya Shudra, even as Vaishnavas. This is the system, social system that is meant to help. Actually, Prabhupada makes this following point, which is also made by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that Varnashrama is that social arrangement, even though it is material, which will facilitate and help us to become Vaishnavas. You see. So, I just want to end on a few small things. I guess it's drawing everyone's attention here. Or maybe saying that this is, yeah. So, we mentioned about Vishnu's 3 gifts of nature. Actually, I think I mentioned only 2. Okay. I'm keeping you in suspense. What about the third one? So the third one, you can also understand, the third one is the gift of knowledge. Therefore, our dairy industry today is off. It is the manya. Our modern agricultural practice is off, is adharmic. It is off. It is based on principles that go against dharma. And our educational system around the world is also off, adharmic. And therefore, we have a lot of work to do. We have to re-establish, not only introduce the holy name, but we have to re-establish what is the proper system of governance which is meant to be there. That is a sign of the Kshatriyas. It is called Dandaniti, the science of politics. Krishna is the greatest politician. Politics is not, well, in Kali Yuga it's a bad word. In the same way that Varnashram is also a bad word, because it's been misused. Shudra is a bad word, but actually, to be a Shudra, one needs 8 specific qualities mentioned by Narada Muni. It is not easy to be a Shudra. Shudra position in society, when properly understood, is a very elevated position. My God. If Shudra is an elevated position, what to speak of Vaishyas, Kshatriyas and Brahmanas? Yes. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to reintroduce Brahminical culture, Kshatriya culture, Vaishya culture, and Shudra culture. It's all culture. I'm sure you've read, or should have read, in the Bhagavatam, or in lectures given by Srila Prabhupada, one is not considered a human being. One is not a human being if one is not within the system of Varnashram. Not a human being. One is not a human being if one is not practicing dharma. Because dharma is what differentiates us from animals. Animals, their only consciousness, as we know, is on the body platform. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And when our consciousness is also on that platform, it means lower consciousness, animal consciousness. People don't like to hear that. Prabhupada would say, it's not me, it's not, it's there in the Shastra. Krishna's telling. So, we have this tremendous task and responsibility to assist Srila Prabhupada, to assist our previous acharyas. And we have one book here actually that we came out in our ministry, I put together last year. This is in connection with a doctoral research that I'm undertaking right now with Osmania University on Vedic sociology. And the title of the book is Modernity is Killing Civilization. Prabhupada used this term on a number of occasions. We are not understanding how this whole deviation that is ongoing and that we are allowing in different ways, How is it we're allowing? We continue to use, for example, commercial milk. You know that this year in Mayapur, the GBC passed a resolution that within 2 years, no Iskcon temple can offer commercial milk on the altar. Within 2 years, every single temple in Iskcon has to offer ahimsa milk. Ahimsa milk means milk from protected cows, and we need to understand what protected cows are. We should be offering what is best to Krishna. We should want to offer what is the purest to Krishna. We have the highest knowledge, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram, Idam, Uttamam. Highest knowledge, purest knowledge. So, we should be offering what is best to Krishna. Most of us, every day what we eat, we don't know where it comes from. And a lot of what we are eating is not good for us. Practically speaking, all the food, all the commercial food, not only the food that we eat, but also even the cloth that we are wearing, most of us, is harmful to us. It's not natural cloth. It's synthetic. So, we have a book table somewhere, I think in the back, yeah. We have a few books actually. These are more recent books. This one is called Save Our Cows, Save Our Villages, and Save Our Culture. And they're again directly connected with these 3 gifts of nature. We also have this app. It's called Sri Surabhi app. You can download this app, and wherever I go and I give a presentation like this, I tell that the first Prabhu and the first Mataji who download the app, register and show me, I'll give them a complimentary book. Little incentive here. So there's all kinds of nice information here. This we came out with this about a year ago, and all of the Deshi cows pictures are there. I mean, you can be carrying, especially like in Bangalore or in any big city, it's like rare to get darshan of cows. But actually having even darshan of cow once a day is most auspicious. You can have not only darshan of cows, but within the app, we'll play it in a few minutes, there's what is called the Surabhi mantra. The Surabhi mantra is what we chanted a little earlier, Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha. It's a very nice mantra that our devotees in Bali, they're practically like, anyway, they came out with a few recordings, and I requested them to put that together a few years back. We also have a number of pamphlets. We have this, actually, are some of our devotees here? Is there something happening? Huh?
We are arranging the book table.
Oh, just now arranging the book table. This, okay, anyways. I wanted to show a video, but I think the time is not allowing. We have a wonderful, one of our main projects is called Om Sri Surabhi campaign. We have a 15-minute video, but I think, I don't want to uphold things here. You can see this video or this documentary on our website. It's there available. And we have a number of pamphlets that also give more information about the ministry's activities. We have a few devotees, I don't know if they are close by. Damodar Dulal Prabhu is here. Or Sri Ram, Sri Krishna Purushottam Prabhu. Can you just come here 1 second? All of you, quickly. I got carried away. I wanted to introduce. Okay, you're. Yeah. Is your brother here also? Okay. Damodar Dulal also? Oh, okay. Actually, we had with us both from morning up until our noon program our minister for cow protection, one of our co-ministers for cow protection, Damodar Dulal Prabhu, who actually has a flight He was supposed to leave yesterday actually, but by the little arm twisting of Sri Ram Prabhu. This is Sri Ram Prabhu actually, who is our director for the Om Sri Srili campaign, one of the co-directors for the Om Sri Srili campaign. And he can possibly speak a little bit briefly about this campaign and how you can all be part of it in different ways, and some of this literature can also, especially the pamphlets, help you how or explain how this is possible. Yes, Hare Krishna. Maybe I have to use mine. It's okay. Can you liberate that? Use this one. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you much. Last 2 days, whole day we have been in Bangalore. Maharaj gave morning class in HPR, afternoon Seshadripuram. So the mood what was Maharaj trying to explain is that how cow culture can be imbibed in all of us. This is the mood of Srila Prabhupada, how that can help in our spiritual life, right? We are all here, all spiritual seekers coming here. So being in cities, it's not that being in cities also, how you can be part of this wonderful service and wonderful, one of the, like Maharaj said, 4 movement of Srila Prabhupada. So there are so many ways, like we were discussing, like right from morning brushing the teeth, you can remember mother cow, but just using, for all devotees in our cities, can just take cow products and whatever produced in the farms, we can have more 1,000 farms in India. But our own devotees are not consuming products from our farms. So that's something, even staying in cities, you can start doing it. Yeah. And we have so many farms. We have one in Hebri and a couple of them around. We can all visit sometime, spend some time, because especially in the next generation, what we're all training, next generation kids, if we can show them what Prabhupada wants, if we can give them a new life, that will help them in the spiritual, although in material life. Because the day by day, the economy, if you all see, it's been declining, and we ourselves are struggling in cities. So something we can actually give something what Prabhupada is envisioning, it helps them as well. Because even kids play with cow dung, it's a simple thing. You may think it's a simple thing, but the research says is, if kids grow in that environment, their anti-metabolism of the body increases. It's just immunity increases like anything. This is something very simple, but very scientific. So, in all the angles, if we all can imbibe one step in our day-to-day life, adding cow culture to our life, that's an offering to Srila Prabhupada, and it also improves our consciousness, because cow is like, the sadhu's aura is almost 3. The cow aura is like 8. If you just circumambulate cow, right, if you do pradakshina, we call the energy or the positive energy of the body increases. It detox your own thoughts. Means just taking association of cows, we will increase the mode of goodness. That's what Prabhupada wants. We attend Mangala, the morning program, because we want to keep in goodness. So taking association of cows will also improve goodness, which will help our spiritual life. So all that Maharaj was trying to convey and encourage all of you is that how we can all be part of Srila Prabhupada's mission, how we can envision and fulfill 50% of Srila Prabhupada's desire, that is establishing Varnashrama through farm communities and rural projects. So it's not like a one-day class. It's very difficult to put a presentation in 1 hour. It's a like Krishna consciousness itself is big, and this topic is much bigger. There's so many devotees working hard in this similar line. So it's a journey started today. We have, like Maharaj mentioned, we have an app and we have so many material which maybe we are doing a small, but if we all join together, something can be done gradually. That's something we are trying to do, and you also can be part of this whole thing. Thank you very much. Thank you. There are some books here which Maharaj has been doing research and putting what Prabhupada wants and how we can relate our day-to-day Krishna consciousness to what Maharaj told. It's something you can all read. There is Seva Ko Seva, it's about question and answers. We all have questions. You may say, Maharaj, I'm in city, how do I connect it?
Okay.
There are answers which we can help you.
Any local announcements?
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for giving a wonderful class on the importance of cows and the problems with the urbanization. So, anybody wants to ask any question? Maybe one or two questions.
You can stand up, speak loudly. Mic is coming. Good.
One mic, that's it.
Can you stand up?
Kshatriya culture, would ancient India's weapon trade also be included in that? Would it also be come with that? With the revival of Kshatriya culture, would the weapon trade be included in that in ancient India?
Absolutely. Kshatriya means there are three activities for Kshatriya. The first is protection. Second, administration. Third, welfare. Protection means actually when one is anointed as a leader, as a Kshatriya, he is anointed actually by a Brahmana, a qualified Brahmana, who recites mantras. One of the mantras, we did this actually in our community in Indonesia. We recited the mantras when we chose our leader for the village. And they have what they call a kris. Kris is like the traditional sword that Kshatriyas in Indonesia would use. And they have, I'm sure, something similar here. Yes. So, mantra is telling that I am now anointing you as the head of the village or the head of the nation, and I'm giving you, entrusting you this sword. You should not underuse nor overuse this sword. So it means Kshatriya, just like, police department or the army. Every country needs to have an army, and sometimes they have to fight when people transgress, etc. like that. Therefore, yes, martial arts is a very, Dhanur Veda. Within Dhanur Veda, the art of weaponry is very much part of it. Otherwise, a Kshatriya has no meaning. Kshatriya means one who will rule by following and honoring dharmic principles and to protect citizens. Sometimes we'll have to. Arjuna is the prime example. He was a Kshatriya and naturally had to learn so many skills that a Kshatriya. So it's an integral part. Maybe there are different levels or different responsibilities within Kshatriyas, just like in ordinary, let's say, Department of Law and Order. There are some, like the Intelligence Department. They may not learn martial arts, but they are, by their intelligence, arranging in so many ways so that the citizens can be protected. So I think your question was whether weapons are part of Kshatriyahood, right?
With the revival of Kshatriya culture, they will be trained in weaponry like bow and arrows and...
No, they can. Well, actually, the traditional and more sustainable weapons are those traditional weapons, because all of what we have today is completely, we could say, dependent on production from factory, is dependent on an artificial system. So how this will be, it's something that will need to be addressed and planned out, and it will take some time. But the traditional, just like now we are trying, we feel a need to revive traditional technologies. So therefore, traditional martial arts, of which the different weapons that you're mentioning, is also an integral part of that. Yeah. Okay.
And
No, just one question per person. Anyone else? Yes.
You mentioned about villages.
About
villages.
Yeah, hold the mic like this. Like this.
Thank you, Maharaj, you mentioned about villages.
Villages, yes.
In the current context,
Yes.
the villages, they lost the innocence. They are not in the mode of goodness anymore because of the reach of the technologies like internet.
Yes.
So practically, if you see, there is no difference between city and village.
So what is the question?
So how to see this from our perspective, and if we want to adapt village life, because we don't see that innocence anymore.
So we have to create it. Devotees are meant to be at least situated in the mode of goodness, actually beyond. Therefore, we need to go to villages. We need not only to visit villages, which we're not even doing to a large extent, but we need to actually live in the villages. We need to actually create or be part of communities. Prabhupada has stated, and this may be a little shocking to many of you, but I'm just repeating what Prabhupada has said. Modern day civilization is a doomed civilization. Doomed civilization. I think everyone understands the word doomed means at one point it will collapse. Modern society will come to an end. This wonderful high-rise apartment and all the gadgets and facilities will soon come to an end. We are living based on unsustainable modes of life. Our way of living is totally unsustainable. You can just, there are so many reports here and there. We mentioned a few things. Do you know that every day, for example, because of the way we are living in modern day society, using up so much of natural resources, every single day between 150 and 200 different species of life, animals, aquatics, birds, insects, aquatics, close to 200 species are disappearing, are becoming extinct every single day. We mentioned how 80% of our soil on the planet is devoid of its traditional natural nutrients. Our population is increasing at a very rapid pace. While the population increases, our ability to produce food is decreasing. It doesn't match. It's not going to work. We have a severe water crisis. We were mentioning how by year 2020, within 10 years from now, India, according to one recent report, 40% of the population in India will not have drinking water. 40% of the population, it means, will die. Around the world, it's estimated that actually, I was recently in Germany as part of my research. In Germany, 70% of the insects are gone. In America, 95% of the forest is gone. Around the world, 80% of the earthworms are gone. In the last 20, 30 years, 33% of the natural resources are gone. We depend on other living entities. We depend on nature. So if we allow this to continue, it means that within a short time, we will also be gone. It is a very critical situation. And just to finish on this point, actually our society, our movement is meant to address these two dimensions, material dharma and spiritual dharma. They are meant to be the concern of each and every member of this movement established by Srila Prabhupada. Some of these literatures, I mean, it's all there in Prabhupada's books. Actually, we're not inventing or creating anything new here. Trying to repeat, trying to explain something that Prabhupada spoke about on many occasions. We know it's not easy. You know, modernization has made, you know, it's so much easier to press a button, you know, to have the lights come on, and we're accustomed and conditioned to that in so many ways. But we should know that for all of the different facilities we have, we are very much destroying, in so many ways, the natural order of things. I just gave a few examples. There's so many more, actually. I think we cannot take more questions right now. And
one last question to you. Here.
Where?
Here. Sure.
Okay, since you have the mic.
Last year here.
Don't pass the mic out. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, nice it was hearing to you. Lot of information, good information we can take.
Yes.
And, like here, it's like we understand in this age only Shudras are relevant and no other Varna is relevant. So how to...
Only what?
Only Shudra is relevant. No other Kshatriya cannot be Kshatriya like in the current age, in this Yuga.
Kalo Shudra Sambhava. Okay, that's what it is. Yes. But, yes. Can you give the mic here? Before I answer the question. You'll give it to me. Okay. You're a reliable person. That is there in Shastra, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. But Prabhupada explained, although we are born as Shudras, it doesn't mean we should remain as Shudras. The Varna is not according to birth. We are born as Shudras. Actually, everyone, even somebody in the Brahmana family, is born as Shudra. But by guna and karma, by developing different qualities and by occupation, we can, by training, isn't it? We can acquire different qualities, and we can take on, as we mentioned a little earlier, for the sake of, as like in a drama, we can take on different positions. And of course, ideally, we should take on different positions as much as possible as they relate or correspond to our nature, you know. So therefore, it is true that in the stage of Kali, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, we're all born as Shudras, but by training and education, we can rise above that. And that's what the Hare Krishna movement is all about. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Maharaj has been here around Bangalore for the last couple of days. I heard that Maharaj is traveling around the villages in Tumkur area, meeting the villagers and the chief people in the villages and collecting data and encouraging them to protect cows and do natural farming and like that. And Maharaj travels and does such that kind of programs many places. He frequently comes to Bangalore and every farm and gives his association there. So it's a very wonderful initiative which Maharaj is taking on behalf of Sri Prabhupada. So let's thank His Holiness Bhakti Ravaswamy Maharaj by once heartily chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare